You're watching Kenosha Community Television.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Shaking Up Kenosha. My name is Jeff Roberts and I'll be your host. We have today with us Ted from WRJN. WRJN, what in the world is that?
WRJN, a radio station that's been in business for over 85 years in Racine. Basically, it's a tradition in Racine, and along with that, it's also a wonderful source of news and information. News Talk 1400. And the one thing about WRJN, basically to let you know, we're in the same building as our sister station, Light Rock 92.1, which is
noticed
primarily
the patch.
a music station. There you go. But it's also a situation with WRJN has been serving the community for so long. We've been around, as I mentioned, over 85 years now, and the one thing that we have connected with is the community, and not just Racine, because there's a lot of features that we have during our broadcast day that focus on Kenosha, specifically my show, the Afternoon News on WRJN, and we have a variety of different people that we talk to from the Racine and Kenosha area. We talk to both Racine County Executive Jim Ladwig and Kenosha County Executive Jim Cruiser, check in with them once a month. We like checking in with both the senators that we have. At one time it was Van Wangard and Robert Wirch, but now it's a situation since the recall election that we have John Lehman and Robert Wirch along the way. We check in with them, try to once a week. Also with Representative Peter Barca, somebody very familiar in this area, the minority leader of the Assembly. And because what's going on right now with the state of Wisconsin, there's a lot of concentration going on with this corner of the state because we have the minority leader, Peter Barca, from this area. We have the Speaker of the Assembly, Robin Voss, from Rochester or Burlington, as the head of the Assembly at this point. And along with that, just with southeast Wisconsin, Scott Walker's the governor. We have Chris Larson as the minority leader in the Senate. And then Scott Fitzgerald, I think he's from this, around Jefferson County or somewhere in that area. So right there, just goes to show you how much southeast Wisconsin has been a real focus when it comes to what's going on in state government right now. And it's a lot of fun too. It stirs things up. The name of this program is Shaking Up Kenosha. Yep. Basically, we're shaking up southeast Wisconsin, the Racine Kenosha area, by presenting both sides with our program. And along with that, we have a number of different. On Fridays, we end up featuring M.D. Kittle, who is the editor-in-chief of WisconsinReporter.com. That is a website. A journalistic effort that also does a good job of shaking up people on both sides of the aisle as well. So what we're doing is we're presenting as fair and balanced, I guess you could say, a presentation that we can, presenting both sides and trying our best to give the listener an opportunity to make up their own minds when it comes to politics. But with our show, it's a whole lot more than that. It's very much of a magazine because we have different features throughout the program as well. For example, I'm taking care of the morning news during the course of the time of this taping. And we're going to be having, we're scheduled to have Congressman Paul Ryan, who joins us on a regular basis with Kurt Volman on Monday mornings on the program. But we're also going to have a real-life midwife on the program. There's a group from the Racine, Kenosha area that actually does midwiving. So what we're going to have is that sort of, we have the serious stuff when it comes to politics, but it's also a situation where we have, lighter topics, human interest stuff as well. And it makes things a lot of fun because that's what life is all about. Life is more than just politics, really.
But that brings up an interesting point, and I know sometimes we get lost in the media blitz that we hear and see on television and the radio. We get lost in all the things that come at us all at once.
Sure.
When we think about radio and we think about media, somebody says, Ted, if I say the name Ted and I point to you, what do you think they'd say about you?
What a goof. No. No.
Besides being a goof,
yeah,
I mean, we're all
exactly.
goofs.
I think what they would probably say is he runs a program that has a little bit of everything, and that's really what we strive to do, because albeit we are very hyper local on WRJN, and when I say hyper local, I mean not just Racine, because we do emphasize that we have a good Kenosha listenership as well, and they've demonstrated that. So we want to make sure on the program that we present both communities as well, and in a number of different arenas. Because the fun part about doing what I do is, if there's a model that I would like to hold up as the way I would like my program to be presented, it would be Bob Collins. If you remember him from his days hosting radio at WGN in Chicago, he could talk to anybody from the President of the United States to some gal in Morton Grove who has a problem with her plumbing or something of that sort, And that's really what we do on what I want to present on the program. When it comes to anybody who visits the program as a guest, that's the key. They're a guest. And so I guess the key, and when you welcome a guest into your home, you want to treat them politely. You want to treat them like you appreciate the fact that they are spending the time with you. Much like I appreciate spending the time with you on this program, Jeff. Yeah. So really, if they ask what's Ted Ehlen all about, I guess the key would be that he's somebody who loves life. He can't believe he's getting paid for the work that he's doing, being able to talk with people on a regular basis, and just really enjoying informing and entertaining people, and being able to make a living at it, because really it's a true blessing. And I honestly, with what's going on right now with what I'm doing, I've said it before and I will continue to say it. This is the best job that I've ever had in my life, because I have the opportunity to talk with a range of different people, and some very important people. Some people, say for example, a gal who just wants to talk about a fundraiser she's doing for a group in her school. We'll even do that as well, simply because it's those little things. Because it's just balancing out all the different types of people in the world, bringing them together in this little forum, this little opportunity for them to talk about what they need to get off, what they need, A, to get off their chest, B, when it comes to influencing people, and C, just really being able to have that chance to converse and be able to exchange ideas. And
that brings up another interesting question. What happens when you get a kook?
It's something you just work with it. The one thing about my program, altogether, I think the kook factor is lessened an awful lot, simply because I don't have, at one time we used to have a segment where we had people calling in. I would bring up topics and we'd be talking about what the topics of the day, and it would be a random thing, because we don't have a call screener at WRJN.
Right.
And because of that, I think the problem is you want to be able not necessarily to control the topic, but it's also a case too where, say for example, you bring up one topic and then somebody wants to bring up something totally different. With what's going on the program, the one thing I learned I do best is talk to people, interview people on a one-to-one basis about particular topics. Now, on our station, we do have our Sound Off program with Don Rosen, where people can call in and voice their opinions about things. I know there are plenty of other stations up and down the dial where where people can call in and give their opinions on matters. And all with what we're doing, I really don't inviting controversy. It's not necessarily something I'm in the business of doing. I just enjoy being able to present different people from the community, different ideas from the community, and opportunities for giving people the opportunity, if it's a local group, if it's a local an opportunity to present ideas that in many cases help fortify, it's hard to really put into words, Jeff. It's an opportunity.
You've never had to think of it before, have you?
Yeah, exactly. But it's really a chance to give a platform for organizations, for people in the community to be able to have their chance to make the Racine-Kenosha area a better place. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Get a chance to say what they have to say. In that situation. So basically, when it comes to kooks, it doesn't happen often on my program. It might happen more often on Don Rosen's Sound Off program, but
that's good, though.
It is indeed.
Well, when you think about the radio audiences between Kenosha and Racine and even a little bit farther north, what's the real difference between the audiences? Is there a difference?
I think the radio audience is as different as the individual listeners that tune in, because there's always going to be a difference of opinion when it comes, to likes and dislikes, be it political likes or dislikes, whether it's a concentration of personal tastes when it comes to music, when it comes to style, when it comes to a bunch of different matters along the way. The one thing I can mention is that just from looking at our listener polls for WRJN, it doesn't surprise me an awful lot when I end up seeing the listener polls, and altogether progressive ideas are something that are a little more responded to for our listener polls, albeit they're not necessarily the most scientific polls. So let's look at it that way, because really anybody can participate in those things. But I think it's just the general nature of the Racine-Kenosha area with its industrial past, its union past, that you're going to have progressive ideas in the Racine-Kenosha areas that are thought of more highly. When you get away from that, especially like in western Racine County, that's where things start moving a little bit more toward the right side of the aisle. And I think that's been proven.
A little bit more rural.
Yeah, rural, yeah, exactly. Because the one thing I do remember, this is something that my dad, who passed away 20 years ago this March, mentioned to me, because we were talking about the Depression and how it affected the town of Burlington, the city of Burlington. Because at that time, Burlington is a pretty good thriving city with about 15,000 people now. And at that time, there was a third of that population, about 5,000 people in Burlington. And I asked him, how did the Depression really affect Burlington? The one thing he mentioned is that in the town of Burlington, with the values that the town had, a lot of people really held on to their money. They saved their money. They were very spendthrift about their money. And so I guess they had the backup in that situation where they could handle an economic a lot better than a lot of the other towns around in larger cities along the way. And I think those principles, as you mentioned about rural principles, I think that has an awful lot to do with it. That there is that sort of institutionalization of those values that have stayed in the western portion of Racine County, and as you move closer to Racine, that basically the idea is, and really it happens in most of the urban areas of this country, that progressive ideas are ones that have find favor with the populace. So I'm thinking, when it comes to our signal range, which is Racine and Kenosha, that can include a lot of different people with a lot of different ideas. So Jeff, I'd have to say, when it comes to the listenership of our station as opposed to other stations, I think people tune into WRJN when they want to find out what's going on in the Racine-Kenosha area. If they want to find out, say for example, when severe weather is coming, they want to find out about the latest happenings in our area. We've got a very good news team on WRJN with Tom Carco and Janet Hoff, who provide great coverage for the area. And along with that, just from our program, and in Kurt Volman's morning news program, just finding, letting people know about what's happening in the community that you should know about, and really opportunities to help in the community as well. And it's a great, I think it's a great service to the community, and that's what our